Hey there, fellow exiles, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my Archmage BV character once again, and I'm going to try something a little bit different with this video. Instead of actually talking while I'm recording, I'm going to try talking in post and just letting my gameplay run in the background for you guys. And let me know if you prefer this kind of video over the normal kind of video. I'll try to edit in some pop-ups for certain items I'm talking about throughout the video. And yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoy. So, back to the topic at hand, Archmage BV. Now, I did make a video on this a couple of weeks ago. I think it was at least. And at the time, the build looked pretty rough around the edges. I didn't really have too much gear put together on the character as of that point in time. And it was kind of, for lack of better words, pretty scuffed. Since then, I have upgraded quite a few items. I will link my POB down in the description below. So if you want to check out the POB, you can do that. And in its current state, the build is incredibly strong. Now, granted, I have invested a lot of currency at this point, but this build is capable of doing pretty much most content in the game. I think the only thing that this build can't do is the rarity stacking tier 17 Titanic Scarab Rogue Exile farm. But other than that, I've had zero issues clearing pretty much everything else in the game. In the background, you'll see a couple of Uber bosses, me doing 9 mod tier 17 with Risk Scarabs. Generally, I have pretty much no issues running stuff. And it's also incredibly tanky. The amount of things that it takes to come together to actually kill this build is quite absurd. And it usually takes some sort of stupid decision on my part for the build to die. Now, aside from that, there is also the benefit of the fact that it's BV, so it ends up being very comfortable. Now, granted, if you were to slot in pretty much any other skill into this shell, it would do a lot better. But for the purposes of this video, I'm talking about BV and BV alone because, in my opinion, if I'm willing to invest this much currency into a single character, I want it to be the comfiest it can be, and BV just happens to give that. So, for things that have changed since my last character, starting off with probably the most obvious is I now have 2 mirrored wands. One is the original copy, which I crafted on stream. You guys can check out the VOD of that. It's about a week ago. And then, of course, the offhand is the mirrored copy of my main hand. And this was probably the biggest power boost for the character, not in terms of damage, but in terms of just gameplay feel. Getting that 30% explode chance was huge, and as you can probably see in the gameplay, I do end up blowing up screens of mobs when there's no proximity shields. Unfortunately, this map had quite a few proxy shields. I do end up blowing up screens every time the explosions go off. After that, the next upgrade that I did make was kind of fixing up most of the scuffed gear. Now, special thanks to Milky, because he was also running this build and he happened to just dump some of his old gear onto me, which was kind of nice because it just accelerated the making of this video pretty much. And yeah, pretty much after that, main goals were crafting a good helmet, getting good pair of gloves, getting the tailwind boots for some good movement speed, etc., and just kind of fixing up gear overall. One of the first upgrades I made after making my initial video was, of course, the Simplex Amulet, because that was pretty much already done, and I started with a budget helical. Now I have a better helical with crit multi on it, and in its current state, the build is at about 90 million DPS on BV alone when my conditionals are up. The conditionals down is probably somewhere around like 60 mil. Yeah, and one thing I do want to discuss is I changed my Forbidden Flame and Flesh, and there's actually some tech here that I really want to share. So, earlier I was running Forbidden Flame and Flesh for Righteous Providence, but now I'm running a Forbidden Flame and Flesh for Unwavering Crusade. Now, the Righteous Providence Forbidden Flame and Flesh were great, and they were doing a pretty good job at carrying crit, but I ended up spending some time thinking about how much Righteous Providence was actually providing me. And Unwavering Crusade genuinely just happened to be something that is way more insane. Because if you aren't familiar with how Unwavering Crusade works, it basically summons holy relics or elemental relics when you either deal damage to a rare or unique enemy or when you kill an enemy. And these elemental relics each give you an aura. And those three auras that they will give you will be Wrath, Hatred, and Anger. Now, one really, really cool benefit of this is that a Watcher's Eye can give you mods from the Watcher's Eye based on auras that you were affected by, not auras that you have activated. So auras that your elemental relics actually give you will enable Watcher's Eye mods. And that's what allowed me to push this build to where it is now. I got a Watcher's Eye with Hatred crit, and that's probably the most important one, is because it not only gives me a lot of crit chance, but it makes the explosions for my wands get base crit, which we can then scale with our increased crit chance and crit multi. And so it's in the use of these elemental relics that this build really, really shines. I think overall these should be used way more than they currently are. I think I bought the set of Forbidden Jewels for about 10 divines. They're kind of insane. Especially on a build like this where you're using Sublime Vision, and typically Sublime Vision just restricts you to the single aura. But because these auras aren't your auras, they belong to the elemental relics. Even though your auras, other than Purity of Fire, are disabled, you can still get the hatred, the anger, and the wrath from your elemental relics on your character, despite running a Sublime Vision, which makes this exceptionally strong. Especially on a mana stacker where you would nonetheless never be able to put something, get other auras anyway. Now, aside from that, there have been minimal changes to the character. In terms of my fundamental scaling. One major thing that was added in thanks to Captain Lance, I was talking to him on stream a few days ago, and he was talking about the Armor and Energy Shield Mastery, which recovers 5% of your energy shield over 1 second when you take physical damage from an enemy hit. Now, the reason this is particularly strong is because in combination with the Reflected mod for adds physical damage to attacks against you. This makes it so that every single enemy attack, regardless of what the source is, has physical damage. So unless it has 100% conversion, you will always be recovering 5% of your energy shield over 1 second when you get hit. Now, one thing to note, which I was not aware of, which Captain Lance made me aware of, is that this mod stacks. So if I get hit by 10 attacks in 1 second, I'm recovering 50% of my energy shield over the next second, which is pretty damn bonkers. That was kind of the final major change that I made to the character. One small change, which to be honest, I'm not even 100% sure is correct, is I'm currently using a pair of Tailwind Elusive Onslaught boots. Now the Onslaught here doesn't do anything because I'm running a Silver Flask. But if you weren't running a Silver Flask and you wanted to go for maybe a Quartz Flask instead, of course the Onslaught here would help. But the Onslaught Elusive Tailwind Boots are about 60% increased movement speed over the original pair of boots. However, the original pair of boots are stronger in the fact that they give you more damage and they give you more ES. Simply by virtue of you get more ES mods on the prefix of your boots, as well as the fact that you also get an Abyss Jewel. So with those boots, I'd probably be pushing somewhere around 14.5k energy shield, and I'd be pushing around 100 million DPS on my BV. So those are things to think about, but again, I wasn't really sure of how important that was at all. The final thing that I would like to talk about that I think is a really cool piece of tech as well is if you have a setup like I do with Automation and Arcane Cloak and you attach it to Enhance and Empower, the Enhance and Empower not only affect your Arcane Cloak, but they also affect your Automation. And the reason this is super cool is because Automation gets a little bit more CDR. Now, granted, it is a very minor difference in power as far as Automation getting cooldown recovery is concerned. However, the change does at least give you a little bit more than it would typically give you because of the fact that automation also gets the extra quality and the extra gem levels. So it's definitely something to consider. Overall, I'm pretty damn happy with the build. I would say now that I've got it done, now that I'm done with the build, since pretty much any upgrade from here on is too expensive, I'd say this 100% probably is the best version of BV that you could do at high investment. Anyway, that's all. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Not really got much else to say. Leave a like, subscribe if you like my content, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.